Hello everyone and welcome back to Fish Den 365. Say hello to my cat Brandy. She's a very friendly cat and she's very curious. Every time I want to do a video, she wants to check out what's going on. Today I'm going to show you how to catch a world record fish. And it's not as hard as you may be thinking. Let me put Brandy down and we'll get right into it. Hey, okay, say hello, say hi, say hi. She's purring. You don't want to get down, do you? You don't want to get down? All right, here we go. Okay. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for watching my channel, for the great feedback that you're giving. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for the likes. I appreciate all my viewers, and I look forward to continue to giving the best content that I can possibly put out there. I really enjoy doing the videos. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for watching. So let's talk about world record fish and how to get a world record. Today, there are basically two organizations that establish and keep track of world records. There's the International Game Fish Association, which is the bigger of the two, and then there's the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame. Both have establishment for world record fish, both keep records, and both are organizations that you can join. I will put a link under the description to both of these organizations so that you can get onto their websites and see what they're all about. In order to get access to all of their data, there's a subscription price, and it's you can get on there and take a look for yourself. It could be as low as $35, I believe, for the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, and I think it's a little more for the International Game Fish Association. The Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame, you can just buy their records book, which is right here. So this is what the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame book looks like. This has all of the records that are in here. There are two major categories and a bunch of subcategories. So there's records for kept fish. So you have to get them weighed, I believe, on a certified scale. And then there's records for catch and release. So there you need to have a measuring device, a picture, a witness. I won't get too far into how the application process works. That's something that you can look into yourself by getting on their websites if you have an interest to do that. What I really want to do today is teach how you can obtain a world record, the process for going about actually catching the world record fish. Somewhere back in the early to mid 90s, my brother and I became obsessed with catching a world record. This goes back quite a ways. Back then, my kids weren't born yet, so I had a lot of time that I could dedicate to fishing. Today, now, my son is in college, my daughter's a senior in high school, so I'm looking forward to the days where I can get out even more again. My brother pursued catching a world record in the International Game Fish Association, and he did that for a specific line class. That is another one of the subcategories, is the pound test line that you're using. So you can have a world record for 12-pound test, a world record for 14-pound test, a world record for 16-pound test. And for catch and release, and I suppose for kept fish, you actually have to send a sample of your fishing line to the organization, and what they'll do is they'll do a pound test on it. They'll break the line and see where it breaks at to make sure that that was the actual pound test that you got that record for. Piece of information there, most of the fishing line today, like Berkeley and a lot of the other lines, might say 12-pound test, but they really break much higher, 14, 15, even 16 for 12-pound tests, for example. So be aware of that. Now, there are organizations out there that make fishing line that will break at the pound test that they state that it will, and it states that right on the box, so you can take a look. If I find some of those, I'll share those under the description of this video. Those lines are specifically for catching world records. So I was fortunate enough in the mid-90s to get 3 world records, 3 different line classes, catch and release, all the same species. They were all hybrid stripers. I'll show you what those records look like. These guys have been collecting dust for quite a while. I do have one framed, but it was just in a drawer. So these are all Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame world records. You can see what they look like. And these were anywhere from the mid-90s to, I think the last one that I got was in 2000. And surprisingly, the one that I got in 2000 still stands today. It's the biggest hybrid striper in the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame at 15-pound test, catch and release. So I'm quite surprised that after 18 years that record is still standing. The other two have since been broken quite a long time ago. Now back then when you caught a world record and you were a part of the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame organization, you got some patches here that indicate that you're a world record holder, this kind of stuff. So if you have an interest in that, if you want your name in a record book, then this is the video for you to watch. But make sure that you watch until the very end, because at the very end of this video I have a very important question to ask you. And it is related to an idea that I have, and I want to make sure that I get my viewers' input on it. It's very important to me to get input on this idea, so make sure you check the end of the video for that question. Here's an example of the lab where they did the line test to make sure that the line test record was accurate. I think this ended up being a 15-pound test. It's based on a number of averages. They do a bunch of breaks and then they average it out. And the average was 14.82. So this was probably ended up being the 15-pound test. Yep, 15-pound test is anywhere from 14.51 to 15.5. So that gives you an idea how the Freshwater Fishing Hall of Fame determines what line pound test for the record that you are submitting. And then here is the application for kept world records with all the rules, and the application for catch and release. Now I know for catch and release you need to have a witness and you need to go and get all of the information that you collected notarized by a notary public. But I will let you take a look at that. Again, the websites that I'll be providing under the description will have all that information for you. So by now you might be seeing what I mean by it might not be quite as hard as you think to catch a world record, because you have all these different opportunities, right? You have catch and release, you have kept, you have all the different line class records, and then you have all the species of fish. I mean, all of them are there for you to get a new record in. And so this is where I want to get into the next part of this video, the actual process for how to determine, and then how to determine what record you want to break, because there's definitely a process to go on with this, and then how to actually go out there and get it done. So when it comes to catching a world record fish, there are basically three major things to consider. Number one is, what are you good at? In other words, what kind of fishing are you best at? Are you a multi-species angler where you're good at catching a lot of different types of fish? Or are you the type of person that focuses in on one or two species and is an expert at catching those one or two species? It's important to know that. It's important to know what your strengths are before you determine and go about going after a world record fish. Number two, you have to know where you're going to be fishing and what you can commit, what kind of time you can commit to doing this. World record fishing is all about persistence. You could catch it on the very first day you're out there, but it's much more likely that it's going to take time and a lot of persistence to catch. You have to put the odds in your favor, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But it takes persistence to catch that one fish that can break the record in these record books. And number three then is knowing what you're trying to break. What fish are you trying to, what species of fish are you trying to get a new world record for? So knowing what you're good at, knowing what waters you have available to fish, and then knowing what you want to fish for. So one approach would be to start looking in the records book to see what the actual records are, and then to determine if the fisheries that you fish are capable of producing a record-sized fish, of producing a fish that can beat the record that's in one of these record books. I'll give you an example. In my area, one of the lakes I like to fish is Lake Wallenpaupack. Wallenpaupack is known to have very large yellow perch. It's got a good population of smallmouths and largemouths. I don't think it has extremely large smallmouths. It does have some big largemouths in it, but not very many. It's got lots of yellow perch though, and lots of big ones. It also has some very large crappie. So knowing that lake produces large specimens of those species, that's something you want to check. You want to see, does my lake that I have to fish, does it have fish in it that could beat what's in this record book? If it does, then now you know where to focus your attention. You know the species and you know where you're going to do it. Sometimes you might have a couple lakes or rivers or streams that are available that can produce record-sized fish. Those are the lakes and streams that you're going to want to focus your attention and time in. Again, once it comes down to the decision about what you're going to go after, the next most important thing is when you're going to be on the water and what kind of time you have to give to this. Again, it's going to take persistence, but you always want to put the odds in your favor. I'll give you a prime example for the records that I broke. I got 3 world records for hybrid stripers. Where I fished, the mid-90s were a perfect time for this because there were 2 lakes that were producing hybrid stripers that were close to home for me, Wallenpaupack and Nakamixon, and I got records at both places. I knew this, and I also knew how to put the odds in my favor for catching those fish. I focused all of my attention in 2 months, May and June, and at night. And the reason for that is because the alewives in both those lakes are spawning at night, and they come up and they're on the surface, and between the hours of about 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. is prime time to catch these stripers. And the easiest way and the easiest thing in the world was just to listen. You'd hear them crashing on the bait. So it was easy to find where these fish were, and by listening to the sound and how loud some of the smashes were, I can get an idea for how big some of the fish were that I was fishing for. Again, it's all about putting the odds in your favor and figuring out a game plan that you can utilize to catch those big fish. If you want to learn a little bit more about catching stripers and hybrid stripers in May and June, check out my video how to catch striped bass in lakes and rivers. That goes into detail about what I do at the night for the night fishing bite. So that was my approach for how to catch those record fish. I put the odds in my favor. I knew the time of the year. I knew the time of the day. I had 2 places that I can do it on, and I focused my attention there and persistently fished until I caught record size fish. You can do the same thing for whatever species you have the opportunity to catch for a world record, and I wish you the best of luck. Remember, if you like this channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, hit that like button. Please comment, share your thoughts and interests with me. And now I have a question for you. This is the question that I mentioned earlier in the video. I think I have an idea that may be beneficial, and I'm wondering how many people would be interested in it. So here it is. What if there was an organization that established records and maintained those records for your local lakes? In other words, Lake Wallenpaupack, the largest bass ever caught, largest largemouth, 6 pounds, 8 ounces. Largest smallmouth, 5 pounds, 4 ounces, this kind of thing. I'm thinking about starting an organization that would monitor and establish records for local lakes. I would start that in the area that I live here in Pennsylvania, but that could be branched out throughout the whole country. I think it could be beneficial once it's established, because people would be able to enter into this database and see how large different species of fish were being caught at any local lake that they fished, so they can kind of see where the biggest specimens of fish are being recorded. And if you have an interest in having some bragging rights for the largest fish in a particular system, like a lake or a river, you can establish those bragging rights for yourself by catching the fish and then going through the application process and getting the lake record or river record or stream record for that species. This is what I've been thinking about. If that is something that you would have an interest in, please comment and let me know that that's something you would be interested in, and that'll help me establish whether or not there's enough interest to try and start an organization like this. I've been running this through my brain, a couple of different ideas for the application process. The hardest part would be getting it started, but once it's up and running, I think the database that would be a result of it could be very beneficial for anglers. So hopefully that's something that I can pull off. We'll see in the future. There has to be interest for it or I won't do it. If you have an interest in something like that, please comment and let me know. And remember, we're certified Bassified, and God bless your fishing endeavors.